Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a semi-new podcast in which we discuss Denver sporting news. We break down the games and we talk about what's to come for the teams that we love, all through the lens of a better. This is the Denver Dollar, and I'm your host, Daniel Shalansky. Without further ado, let's get to it. Now, there is a game tonight at home against the San Antonio Spurs, but before I dive into everything pertinent to that game, I would like to briefly apologize for my recent absence. They say school comes first, and it certainly does when you're a senior in college. That said, school comes first for now. So that is why I had a really busy week last week, and I apologize for not putting a show out since April 1st. Now, with that said, let's talk about the game tonight. So again, the Nuggets play the San Antonio Spurs at home. The date today is Friday, April 9th, 2021. The Nuggets played against the Spurs at home just 2 nights ago. So we have a fairly good template for how these teams are playing right now and what this contest might look like in tonight's game. Now, some injuries that were also prevalent during the last game that are prevalent during this game is there's one big one for the Nuggets, and that is Jamal Murray. He has a knee injury, and he is not on the betting card, which means he is most likely unavailable, but he is technically listed as day-to-day. It has not been established by the team whether or not he will play in this game. That is the only injury on the Nuggets side of the ball, and yes, it is a pretty big one, but the Nuggets have been kind of coasting without Jamal Murray, and this isn't the most difficult of matchups, as the 106-96 victory 2 nights ago over the Spurs might show. Now, on the Spurs side of the ball, they will certainly be without 3 players, and they're potentially going to be missing Gorgio Jang. He has a shoulder injury, and he's considered day-to-day, just like Jamal Murray. The 3 players that they're going to be without are Trey Lyles. He has an ankle injury. Keita Bates-Diop has a hamstring injury, and Lonnie Walker has a wrist injury as well. Those 3 players will be absent in this game. So while the Spurs might appear more banged up considering the fact that they have 4 injuries as opposed to the Nuggets 1, those are 4 role players as opposed to Jamal Murray being the second most important player on the Denver Nuggets. So we talked about how the game went last time. It was 106-96. The scoreboard, even though it was a 10-point victory for the Nuggets, the scoreboard doesn't necessarily reflect how much of a blowout it actually was. For example, there are 3 players, I believe. It was Vlatko Cancar, or 4 players. It was Vlatko Cancar, it was Bol Bol, it was Zeke Naji, and it was Marcus Howard. All 4 of those players only played 4 minutes in absolute garbage time, and they went minus 10 in those last 4 minutes of the game. So with 4 minutes remaining on the game clock, it was a 20-point game. The rest of the game didn't matter at that point for either team. They threw in their garbage time players just to develop them or to rest their starters for whatever reason they would, to play the 4 horsemen of garbage time. That's what I like to call those gentlemen. And the 4 horsemen of garbage time didn't disappoint with the minus 10 box score plus minus in those 4 minutes. So it wasn't as close as the 10-point victory would show. It was quite a commanding victory for the Denver Nuggets in this game, and I expect the same will happen tonight. Now, the Nuggets are big favorites. The money line in favor of the Nuggets is minus 375. If you are to bet on the San Antonio Spurs, you are looking at plus 290. If you are to take the spread in favor of the Denver Nuggets, the Nuggets are favored by 8.5 points. Now, I do think that the Nuggets win against the spread, but I'm going to turn it into a parlay later because I like the odds better on the parlay. But 8.5 points, I think that the Nuggets do win this game by that margin. For example, in the last game, like I said, they won by 10 points. So that alone would have surpassed this mark of 8.5 points. And those guys went minus 10 in the last 4 minutes of the game. I don't think that's a fluke. I think that those aren't a very cohesive unit, and I don't think that they are very good on the court together. Marcus Howard had one highlight, but he might be one of my least favorite players as a player in the NBA. He's a chucker, and he just shoots his shot even when he's contested and when there are better looks. So if there is garbage time again, do expect the scoring totals to be closer to one another than you might see throughout the course of the game. But I do still think that the Nuggets are able to surmount this 8.5 point spread. Now, in terms of the over-under is locked in at 220.5. I really like the under in this game. Again, when the Nuggets played the Spurs 2 nights ago, only 202 total points were scored. The Spurs are not necessarily such an offensive powerhouse, and defensively, they're all right, but they've been struggling immensely from the defensive end of the court as of late. So I do like the under here. So I'm going to parlay the under with the spread that I previously mentioned. I like the under because I'm getting it at the value of minus 108, but I know that the Nuggets are going to win this game. I can be very confident that the Nuggets are going to win this game. They have no reason to lose this game, especially considering the fact that they have won 7 out of their last 7 games. They've won 6 games in a row since Aaron Gordon has been introduced to the court in a Nuggets uniform. So I do absolutely think that the Nuggets will win this game. I saw a quote on Reddit that we may never lose again. Well, I don't think that's true. I'm riding with the momentum that the Nuggets have as of now. So I will take the under in tandem with that spread that I previously mentioned. There's one more bet that I'm willing to take, and that's the Nuggets in the 3-way money line. I'm taking this instead of the normal money line because you are getting way better value, and I don't foresee this game going into overtime. If you were to bet on the normal money line, you're locked in at minus 375. If you bet on the 3-way money line, you are locked in at minus 315. So it is way better value. And overtime is definitely not going to happen in this game. And there are mathematical reasons as to why the value is too good to pass up on. Just briefly diving into those mathematical reasons, it is because right now in the 3-way money line, that is through 4 quarters. So that means that there are 3 different options, hence the name 3-way money line. Team A can win, Team B can win, or the game can go into overtime, which means there's a tie through 4 quarters. Now, in this game, a tie is being reported at plus 1,500, which means Vegas is expecting a tie to happen in every 1 out of 16 games in order for this, to pay out. If it happens 1 out of every 16 games, then this is considered good value. However, a tie isn't happening 1 out of every 16 games. Throughout the 777 games that have been played this NBA season, only 40 have gone into overtime, and that is 1 out of every 19.4 games. So I wouldn't touch that bet unless it were locked in at plus 1,842, but it's only plus 1,500. So Vegas is overvaluing the likelihood of a tie, which means they're undervaluing the fact that this game will most likely not end in a tie, and that is boosting up the value on either team in this 3-way money line. So I am taking the Nuggets in the 3-way money line. Just to summarize those popular bets, I'm taking the under of 220.5. I'm taking the under in tandem with the spread of 8.5 points in favor of the Nuggets in a parlay, and I'm taking the Nuggets in a 3-way money line. So, with that said, let's dive into individual player props. Again, Jamal Murray is hurt, so there are only 4 players available to bet on for the Denver Nuggets. Those players are Will Barton, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic, and let's start with Will Barton. There are 2 bets that I like for Will Barton here, and both of them have a pretty good track record as of late, especially since Jamal Murray has been out. Those two player prop bets that I am taking are I am taking the over on Will Barton's assists. He's locked in at 3.5 assists in this game. The over is set at plus 100. Over the past week, he's averaging 4.3 assists. He had 5 in the last game, and in the last 4 games, he has had at least 3.5 assists in 4 out of those 4 games. So, over the last 4 games, he's hit this mark every single time. I'm going to keep riding that hand, especially since Jamal Murray is out. In addition to that, kind of by the same logic, I'm taking the over on Will Barton's player special. That is his combined points, assists, and rebounds. He's locked in at 22.5 in this game. I'm taking the over for Will Barton, again at minus 113. The reason being, he's hit this mark of 22.5 combined points, assists, and rebounds in 4 out of his last 4 games. Over the last week, he's averaging 28 combined points, assists, and rebounds. So the track record is there as of late to take the over on both of these bets. I'm going to ride the over on both of those. I will move on to the next player now. I'm taking the over in points for Michael Porter Jr. Every single show over the past 2 weeks, I've told you to take the over on points for Michael Porter Jr. He's set at 18.5 points in this game. The over is locked in at minus 113, and Vegas just isn't learning. First, it was 15.5 points, and I said hound the over. Then I said 16.5 points, and I told you to hound the over when Vegas moved it to 16.5. Then they did 17.5, and now it's at 18.5. So they're kind of learning, but realistically, it should be in the 20s at this point. He has still hit this mark of 18.5 points in 6 out of his last 8 games. Take the over, especially considering the fact that it's the same value as the under. In 1 out of those 8, one out of those 2 games that he did not hit the over of 18.5 points. That happened to be the last game against the Spurs, and he had 18 points. He only shot 3 3-pointers. It was kind of a weird game for Michael Porter Jr., but he was still so close despite the weird night, and like the weird night that didn't include a lot of volume for him. I would expect him to have more volume in any given game and to have more volume in this game, and I do think he easily surpasses this mark of 18.5 points. There are no bets I liked for Aaron Gordon. Let's talk about Nikola Jokic. There are 2 bets that I like for the GOAT himself. I'm taking the over on Nikola Jokic's assists. He's locked in at 9.5 assists in this game. The over is set at plus 100. In the last 3 games, he's been back and forth. Yes, he is a big triple-double man, but when he gets his double-doubles, I feel like half of them are in assists and half of them are in rebounds. He really goes back and forth, and right now his assists are trending up while his rebounds are trending down. In 3 out of his last 3 games, he has had more than 9.5 assists, and here he's locked in at plus 100, which is way better value than the minus 127 that is attached to the under. I'm taking the over there, and I'm taking the under on his rebounds. He's locked in at 10.5 rebounds in this game. The under has better value at plus 100 versus minus 127 for the over, and in 0 out of his last 3 games has he gotten more than 10.5 rebounds. I'm going to ride the trend, which is assists are going up and rebounds are going down. That'll do it for the Nuggets side of the ball. Let's talk about the Spurs side of the ball, starting with Dejounte Murray. I'm going to take the over on his combined points, assists, and rebounds, locked in at 26.5. The over doesn't have a great value of minus 126, but I think it's an easy bet. On the season, he's averaging 27.8 combined points, assists, and rebounds. Over the last 30 days, Dejounte Murray is averaging 27.3. Over the last week, he's averaging 29.5. And in the last game against the Nuggets, he had 29. Now here it's only 26.5. So all 4 of those marks are above this mark of 26.5. Not only that, but in 6 out of his last 7 games, he has reached this mark of at least 26.5 combined points, assists, and rebounds. I'm going to take the over there. I did not love any bets for Keldon Johnson, which means we are moving on to Derek White, Colorado born and raised, went to Legend High School, went to UCCS. That said, he is the opponent tonight, and Nuggets fans know that we don't love him or his giant forehead. Now, I'm going to take the over on his points, however, in this game. He is set at 14.5 points. The over is locked in at minus 113. That is the same value as the under, and it's pretty blatant that, well, every stat points to the fact that he would get the over for points in this game. In fact, on the season, he's averaging 14.4, but that is only trending up as of late. Over the last 30 days, he's averaging 15.6. He's averaging 16.3 points over the last week, and he had 18 points in the last game. Now, in 6 out of his last 7 games, he has reached this mark of 14.5 points. I think that is an easy bet. Onto the star on the Spurs side of the ball, DeMar DeRozan. I'm going to take the over in points for DeMar DeRozan. He is set at 19.5 here in this game. I'm going to take the over there. He's locked in at minus 113 for the over. On the season, he's averaging 20.9. That's trending up. Over the last 30 days, he is averaging 22.8. And yes, I know he only had 14 in the last game, but he has hit this mark of 19.5 points in 8 out of his last 12 games. Minus 113 for the over, and something that I'm confident will happen, is a good enough bet for me to take. I'm also going to take the under on his rebounds. He's set at 4.5 rebounds. The under is locked in at minus 159. On the season, he's averaging 4.5, but that is trending way down. He's only averaging 3.2 over the last month. He had 4 in the game against the Nuggets, and he's only averaging 4 over the past week. Now, here is the crazy thing. In 11 out of his last 12 games, he has failed to reach this mark of 4.5 rebounds. Let me say that again. 11 out of his last 12 games, he has failed to hit this mark. Yes, you're getting way worse value with the under than the over at minus 159 versus plus 125, but the 11 out of 12 games trajectory is something that I can't bet against. I like the value enough for me to take that bet. The last player prop that I am going to discuss before we discuss double-double threats is Jakob Pirtle. Why there is an R sound in his last name, I don't really know. It's spelled Poeltl. That said, his name is Pirtle, like a turtle. I'm taking the over for Jakob Pirtle points. He's set at 9.5. He only had 4 in the previous game against the Nuggets. He's only averaging 9 on the week. But over the last 30 days, he's averaging 10.7 points. And in 6 out of the last 8 games, he has reached this mark of at least 9.5 points. And you're getting better value with the over. The over is set at plus 100. The under is being set at minus 127. He has hit this mark in 6 out of the last 8 games. I'm taking the over there. Now, on to double-double threats. I'm taking both Nikola Jokic to get a double-double and Michael Porter Jr. Let me discuss the reasoning behind that. Michael Porter Jr. is locked in at plus 120 to get a double-double in this game. Now, I know he's only averaging 7.6 rebounds on the season, but it's trending up. He's averaging 8.5 over the last 30 days. He's averaging 9.7 over the last week, and he had 10 in the last game. Now, here's the crazy thing. In 4 out of the last 6 games, that is a 67% hit mark. In 4 out of the last 6 games, he has gotten a double-double, and he's locked in at plus 120, which is good enough value for me to take it. I'm taking the double-double for Michael Porter Jr., and I'm taking the double-double for Nikola Jokic, even though the odds are way worse. He's locked in at odds of minus 455. That is not great value, but let me tell you this. At minus 455, if you put $100 down every single NBA game this season, every single time the Nuggets were to play, you put down $100 at these odds of minus 455, which, let me tell you, are some of the worst odds on this specific bet I have seen all season. You would still be up $389. Now, he has gotten a double-double in 45 out of 51 Nuggets games. That is 88% of the Nuggets games he has gotten a double-double. It is absolutely worth it. Put a lot of money on the line. Even if he doesn't get it this game, fall into this trend. Put $100 down every single game. You will be up big money by the time this season ends. That'll do it for kind of my player props and player specials. There is one more thing I will discuss before closing out the show, and that is our patented tip-off analysis that we do here on the Denver Dollar. You won't find this on any other show. No one else talks about the tip-off because it's largely an inconsequential play over the course of an NBA game. But there is one thing that it's very important for, and that is who we think will score first in any given game. The team that has the ball first has every advantage to score first, right? And more often than not, they do. So we are going to bet. We like to bet on the team to score first that we know will win the tip-off, especially when the odds are really good here. So it's going to be Nikola Jokic, the Joker, versus Jakob Pirtle. Now, they haven't taken too many tip-offs against each other in the past due to the fact that Pirtle was largely a backup to LaMarcus Aldridge when LaMarcus Aldridge, wasn't bought out and on the super team that is the Nets. So when they played 2 nights ago, I do believe I went back and looked at a bunch of play-by-plays in previous matchups between the Nuggets and the Spurs. I went back 3 years, and I did not see a single tip-off between the two besides the game 2 nights ago. So that is what we are going to go off of. Nikola Jokic won that tip-off despite the fact that they are similar frames, similar wingspans. Nikola Jokic is 7'3". Pirtle is a slightly more athletic 7'1". So they're kind of comparable in terms of that. But Nikola Jokic won the tip-off, and if you watched it, it was fairly easy for him. Not that he jumped earlier or jumped higher. It was that he timed his jump way better. Jakob Pirtle completely missed the ball, and Nikola Jokic was right there next to his hand, and he did it easily. So I do think Nikola Jokic will win this tip-off. I'm going to take the Nuggets to score first in this game at minus 121. That'll do it for the show today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time. Don't forget to tell your friends to like and subscribe, and with that, we say deuces.